I don't like Louis Vuitton. I think it looks tacky. I know it's expensive, but it just looks tacky. I'm sure everyone disagrees with me. Everybody loves a good revenge story. Yes, please, especially if the person really had it coming. I can't recall any times I've unleashed an epic and well-deserved revenge on someone, but I have definitely been the victim of a revenge intended for someone else. Oh, Kevin, what can I say? I'm a lot more petty than you. Back in college, I lived on a campus apartment with 3 of my fraternity brothers, Eric, Devin, and Devin, which was also pronounced like Devin. Helpful, isn't it? That's useful. It's not even a common name, is it? Also, someone's called Devon? Like the county?
That's right. Now, say my name.
And yes, it was very confusing whenever someone called the apartment phone looking for anyone but Eric. Kevin, I thought you were only a couple of years older than me. You had an apartment phone? I remember it being a hassle that we had to have a phone line to the house that we had to pay for because we needed it to have an internet connection. But we never even bought a phone to plug it into there because everyone had mobile phones and had had them for years. Anyway, Eric was constantly getting pissed off at Devon for eating his food, and he began going to extreme yet ineffective methods of trying to prevent this. His first attempt involved purchasing a bag of Reese's cups that he had no intention of eating. He then bought a syringe off another one of our friends who had diabetes, and he used the syringe to inject vinegar into the center of each peanut butter cup. Obviously, he had then to toss them in the freezer for a while, otherwise the consistency would be all wrong. And yes, I'm vaguely concerned about the mental health of someone who would go to such bizarre lengths, but he seems to have turned out fine. It reminds me, when we were at school, like, we'd have donuts. They'd be like, but donuts in the UK, I don't know how this is with American donuts, but we don't typically have ring donuts. Donuts are a ball of dough, and inside is like strawberry jam or raspberry jam or chocolate or whatever, something delicious like that. And we'd have donuts. It wasn't at lunchtime, it was like an afternoon snack at, let's say, 4 o'clock. But they were served in the refectory, where, like, the canteen, I think Americans call it. Canteen, where you eat lunch. And so all of these tomato ketchup dispensers, you know, the ones you'd grab with your hand would be there. They've got these long nozzles on. And we'd go up to those donuts. This isn't revenge, this is just being a dick. And you'd go to the donuts, and you'd just be like, in through the same injection hole that they put the jam in. You'd just squirt a little bit of ketchup. And so people would go and get these donuts, and they'd be like, and inside would be ketchup and jam. Yeah, like I said, I'm a bit of a dick.
You have a poison in your mind, and the fact that you can't see it makes me so sad.
Let's quickly talk about something we all encounter. Public Wi-Fi. It's pretty convenient, right? Yeah, I mean, especially if you're somewhere where it's like, oh, why is the internet so crap? Why? 3G? What is this? A joke? And you're like, cool, free Wi-Fi in the Starbucks or whatever. But if that's an unsecure Wi-Fi network, you might have to worry, because you might be thinking, yay, free Wi-Fi, and all hackers are thinking, free for all on your data. Yes, please. Surfshark, however, they will help you out. They're a VPN, and basically using one is kind of just, it keeps you safe online. It keeps all of your data encrypted, so people can't snoop on what you're doing. They can't see you accessing your bank account. They can't see you sending those emails. Keeps everything safe from hackers, which is very nice. Plus, with one Surfshark account, you get unlimited devices, so your whole household, all of your stuff can stay nice and safe, which is brilliant. They've even got a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try completely risk-free. They got 3,200 servers in more than 100 locations. Oh, you know what I was using Surfshark for recently? You guys know ChatGPT? They released that voice thing where you could talk to it like a person, not the one where you say something and then you let go and it responds. The one where it's like you could interrupt it and chat with it, and of course, because of course, Americans get it first. And I'm like, oh, that's lame. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I fire up Surfshark. They got, I don't know, maybe like 20 US servers. I don't know if there's 20. There's a lot of them. US servers. And I'm like going through some of them, and ChatGPT's too smart, and it's like, we know you're on a VPN. We know you're on a VPN. And then I connect through Phoenix, Arizona, and they were not wise to that one. And I got access to I updated my app, and I got access to the voice thing, which is awesome. Anyway, go to surfshark.com/blaze. You'll get 4 extra months of Surfshark for free, so stay secure. Thanks to Surfshark for keeping our browsing safe and sponsoring the video. And now back to today's episode. When Eric finally told him what had happened, he said, oh, I thought they tasted a little bit weird, but I ate them anyway. Since this plan didn't work, a more direct method needed to be attempted. Eric decided to bake a sheet of brownies, which he then sprayed with a can of stuff that you spray on furniture to keep cats and dogs from going near it. I was unaware of this plan, as I was in the the living room watching TV with Devin. Devin, who did know about the tainted brownies and really wanted to see how Devon would react to eating them, decided to bring them into the living room and offer them to Devin. Seeing a plate of free brownies, I immediately yelled, yes, without thinking, and grabbed one to take a bite before Devin even had a chance. It took me about 40 minutes and 8 of Eric's cans of soda to finally get the taste out of my mouth, but I can still remember exactly how that pet repellent tasted. The moral of this story is that if you're ever offered free food, even by one of your most trusted friends, there is always a non-zero chance that it has been poisoned. I don't know if that counts. I guess it is poison. That stuff that they probably put on the cat furniture, the furniture for cats, to keep them away is probably poison. I didn't know such a thing existed, and it's good to know. My son desperately wants a cat. He's obsessed with cats. My daughter doesn't give a she's like, I don't want it. Romulus wants it. All right. Okay. Okay, Remus, you do you. Everyone else wants a cat, though. Attempted murder over a dying game. I've mentioned it before, and it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone either, but people take their MMORPGs entirely too seriously. Whether it's Warcraft or Terra or Star Wars, MMOs can bring out not only the most obsessive behavior in people, but also some of the shittest.
Oh, that's a big boy, isn't he?
To be fair, that's true of both most games and most online activities. And maybe, Kevin, indeed life. The internet is a cesspool of people being their absolute worst. You could just say the world is a cesspool of people being their absolute worst. And even seemingly innocuous games like Monopoly or Mario Party have a tendency to end with everybody ready to throw down. It only makes sense that when you combine games with the internet, you're going to get an absolute dumpster fire of humanity. See also Xbox Live League of Legends. No idea. Don't know anything about this.
Your father and your father to fight back in the night, and you cry.
As it turns out, this is even true of dying games. You'd think that when a game's player base is shrunk to the point that everybody basically knows each other, it'd all probably be a lot more chill. I'd like to think that the few remaining players would have a true love of the game and want to create the best experience for everyone so that the game doesn't die off completely. I'd like to think that, but as this story shows, I would be wrong. Any game, even if you've got super passionate people and there's no new people coming on, is eventually going to die off. It's like YouTube channels. Like, if you don't grow, you will die. Because eventually, even you, dear viewer, will grow bored of this channel and you'll leave me. And that makes my heart sad. But it's also the reality of life, and the same is true for games. It began on the MMO Archage, a game from a Korean developer that was released in 2013 in Korea and 2014 in North America. The game is described largely as being a fantasy genre sandbox game, or whatever. But honestly, that's not important. It's not popular outside of Korea anymore, and the publisher had announced back in April that they'd be shutting down the official North American servers on June the 27th, just 4 days after the events in this story took place. Anyway, one of the game's remaining players, 20-year-old Edward Kang, left his home in New Jersey on Thursday, June the 20th. He told his mother that he was going on vacation to visit a friend he had known for years from an online game. Is this bro crossing the country to murder someone who he doesn't like from a game? That seems normal enough in this day and age, so Edward went to the airport, flew to Jacksonville, Florida. From there, he checked into a cheap hotel near the home of his soon-to-be victim. Dude, Edward, what are you doing? It's just a game, Edward! He arrived at the hotel Friday morning, then went to the store to go and purchase a hammer and a flashlight, receipts for which police would later find in his hotel room. It's unknown and probably not very important what Edward did for the next day and a half, but late Saturday night he went to the home of Zachary Din, a fellow Archage player. According to the statement made to the police, Edward was able to walk right into the house because the door was unlocked, and he waited outside Zach's bedroom for an unknown amount of time. Zach was up late gaming, and at around 1 p.m. he got up to go to the bathroom. When he opened his bedroom door, he saw Edward standing there with the hammer raised above his head, ready to strike. A fight broke out, with Edward hitting Zach in the head multiple times with the hammer, but Zach was able to overpower him and take him to the ground. His screaming also woke up his stepfather, who came to help disarm and restrain Edward. Zach was seriously wounded and needed his forehead stapled shut, but it was nothing life-threatening, at least. You got out of this lucky, my dude. Someone hitting you multiple times in the head with a hammer, and you don't have, anything beyond, I don't want to say a cut, but, a fucking massive cut. That's not bad, my dude. You got a strong skull.
'Tis but a scratch. A scratch?
Police arrived at the scene shortly afterward, and both Edward and Zach were taken to the hospital, with Edward being taken to the police station afterwards, where he belongs. When police first arrived, Edward asked one of the deputies, how much time is breaking and entering and assault? My dude, yeah, that is not assault, dude. That is attempted murder. You allegedly sat waiting outside someone's bedroom and took a hammer to their skull. That is very much getting you attempted murder, not assault. But the strangest part of this came when Zach's stepfather asked Edward why he did this while police were taking him away. Edward's only answer was, he is a bad person online. That is an extremely vague statement that could mean a myriad of different things, and Edward immediately lawyered up, so no additional public statements have been made regarding his motive or thought process. As such, that's all we're going to have for motive for the foreseeable future. Edward believed that Zach was a jerk online, so he flew to Florida to allegedly bash his head in with a hammer. I say allegedly because he has yet to face trial for the charge of attempted second-degree murder, but he did also admit to it. While in custody, Edward requested to make a phone call to his family, a call that was of course recorded. You're in a police station, what are you doing? Which was a good thing since they needed to get a Korean translator to find out what was said. On the phone call, he admitted to his mother that he had attacked Zach with the hammer, though when she asked, he claimed that he didn't go there with the intention of killing him. It is a bizarre revenge story that makes absolutely no sense without the given context, though I did find someone claiming to have additional information about the motive. This comes, of course, from an anonymous Reddit user with virtually no post history, and whose sources just essentially trust me, bro. But I figured it was worth sharing on the off chance that it isn't just made up bullshit. It probably is. According to this user, who claimed to be a fellow Archage player, Edward and Zach both played on a private server called Archage. Zach had pissed off a group of Chinese gold farmers who retaliated by posting a full dox of him, which is how Edward was able to get his home address. Sometime after that, Edward, who the Redditor also claimed was bipolar, was gaslit by other members of the community into believing that Zach was a predator because, well, reasons. Whether any of this is true or not is anyone's guess, and I'm leaning towards probably not, but I suppose we'll find out more details if this ever goes to trial. I think he just is a dick in the online game. That's it. I don't think it's just an anonymous Reddit poster. Well, let's see. Maybe, trial. Let's see. Hans Niemann against the world. Chances are most of you don't recognize the name Hans Niemann. I don't, Kevin, but I guarantee you'll remember he is. He's a guy that 2 years ago was the anal beads guy. He was accused of cheating in a chess match against Magnus Carlsen using vibrating anal beads. And let me tell you, it's been a wild ride in the chess world since then. Hans filed a $100 million defamation lawsuit against Magnus, Chess.com, and popular chess streamer Hikaru Nakamura, because Hans is an American, and that's just how we do things. I mean, good fucking luck with that, dude. 100 million? Please. The lawsuit was unsurprisingly thrown out by a judge, and a month later it was announced that all parties involved had come to some sort of agreement that would avoid the need for any future litigation. Also, Magnus Carlsen, and by the sounds of things, the Japanese dude, are not Americans. Don't you have to, you're gonna have to sue them in their own countries if you actually want them to show up, my dude. Judge be like, I don't have the jurisdiction for this shit. 100 million you smoking the crack, anal bead boy. Allegedly.
Hey, Bobby, look, I'm American.
I think I'll use my credit card.
One of the few details given about the agreements was that Magnus would no longer refuse to play against Hans. The two haven't had to play against each other over the board since then, but it looked like they were going to about a month ago. At the World Rapid and Blitz Team Championship, Hans's team and Magnus's team were paired against each other. However, the rules for the tournament state that teams had to be 6 to 9 players each, so if the teams aren't the same size, then somebody has to sit out that round. Their teams were paired against each other 4 times at that event, and all 4 times Magnus chose not to play that round. Wow, you got Magnus fucking Carlsen on your team, probably the greatest chess player of all time, and they're just like, he's just like, no, I'm not gonna play this round, boys. And they're like, Magnus, we need you, Magnus! You're like the oh god, who's that really good football player? The American football player? Tom Brady! You're like the Tom Brady of chess, Magnus! You're like the Roger Federer, there's a reference I could better do, of chess. You're the Max Verstappen of chess, come on! While not a direct accusation of cheating, it was very much a slap in the face, and it seems that he has decided to only play against Hans if it is completely unavoidable. And in just 2 weeks, at the time of writing, so probably 5 months ago for all of you watching, probably, the two of them will play against one another. They've each made it to the semi-finals of the Speed Chess Championship, and they will be forced to play against one another. The early rounds were all played online, but the first year ever, the semi-finals and finals will be played over the board in Paris, hence the massive delay in the middle of the event. There was a lot of buzz surrounding the elimination bracket, brackets, as Hans and Magnus seemed to be on a collision course with one another, and once Hans punched his ticket to Paris, he was afforded the opportunity to do some interview with chess.com. They let him ramble at length about the giant conspiracy perpetrated against him by the chess.com mafia, saying how he had been blackballed from events and couldn't get invited to anything ever since the false allegations of the anal beads. These interviews were largely ridiculed, mostly because of what Hans said. Mostly because
Continue.
Oh, try again.
These interviews were largely ridiculed because most of what Hans said was hilarious nonsense, and also because he seemed to ignore the fact that he admitted to cheating at online chess multiple times over the course of 4 years. Perhaps more pertinently, Hikaru explained on one of his streams why Hans wasn't getting invited to anything, and the short answer was, why the f*** would he? Despite becoming chess's most infamous personality, Hans has barely been ranked among the top 50 players in the world. Don't get me wrong, that is still really impressive, but unless you're in the top 10 or maybe top 20, then you can't make a living playing in chess tournaments. In that regard, cracking the top 50 isn't that big a deal. More importantly, chess invitationals usually cap out at 10 or maybe 16 people, and organizers aren't going to invite a bunch of people from the same country because that isn't going to increase the size of the viewing audience. If you're lucky, then maybe they'll invite 2 people from your country, but unless you're the top-rated player in your country, then there's no reason to expect any invitations. Being an American really hurts in this regard, as there are more than a dozen other Americans above Hans on that list. Hikaru himself, he's an American, and at the time of writing is currently the number 2 ranked player in the world behind Magnus. Holy shit, and he also streams? Goddamn, dude, you busy! If he's fallen to 3rd place by the time this comes out, it's because he and another American have been swapping between 2nd and 3rd for the past few months, depending on who happens to be having a better day. Needless to say, they are the 2 American players that would be receiving all of the tournament invitations. Oh, yes, and also Hans trashed a hotel room at a tournament, causing thousands of dollars worth of damage, so even if he was the highest rated American, there's still no guarantee that tournament organizers would want to deal with his bull. That sure is a lot of drama, but where's the revenge? Well, this began in August when Hans launched what he called Hans Niemann Against the World. Honestly, I think a more accurate name for this would be Hans Niemann Q World Tour. Since Hans can't get invited to events, he instead secured his own sponsor and has spent the past month flying around the world playing one-on-one ranked matches against other chess grandmasters for cash prizes. The prize money has varied, but the first match was $30,000 for the winner and $20,000 for the loser. That's certainly incentive enough for a lot of players to spend a few days playing chess against some American arsehole. I just hope they've all been happy taking the loser's purse, because Hans has crushed all of them. With the rating points he's gained, he's climbed from 55th in the world as of April to now being ranked 16th. I'm curious to see how far this revenge tour will take Hans, and if he will truly live his stated dream of becoming the first American chess world champion. My money's on no, since Bobby Fischer! Since Bobby Fischer already did that 52 years ago, but who knows what the future holds. Just once, though, I'd really like it if there could be a prominent American chess player who didn't have a reputation for being a colossal arsehat, yes.
Did you wash your ass today?
Chinese customer decides not to purchase clothing. This story first appeared on Xiao Hongshu, often referred to as Chinese Instagram, where a user going by the name Xiao Maoran replayed her experience at what was described as a Louis Vuitton outlet. Louis Vuitton has outlets? Is that something, really? I assume that if Louis Vuitton has something that's leaving the season, that they just dispose of it because outlet would kind of damage their brand. I'm guessing that was lost in translation, as I don't believe Louis Vuitton has any outlet stores, but whatever. Thank you! Thank you! The point was that staff were total assholes to her. They refused her request for water, not that I would expect water at a store, but that's maybe a cultural thing. They tried to pawn off old seasonal clothing on her when she asked to see the new arrivals, and Shalmar and even claimed that the staff rolled their eyes at her when she asked to try on some dresses. Yeah, these stores though, it's an interesting thing. I think it's a little bit of a tactic. Like, I think Rolls-Royce allegedly isn't this one of the tactics that, I don't want to say Rolls-Royce, there's some car company, and like clothing stores, I think like very, very high-end stores can partly do this. They do this, so you're like, no, I want to see the new stuff, and they're like, oh, okay, you want to see the new stuff, huh? And then you want to try on dresses, oh my, and it's like, can you really afford this? And then you'll buy more just to be like, fuck you, I can afford it, when it's all just a marketing game. They fucking got you.
Got it. I'm broke. I'm broke.
After leaving the store, she called Louis Vuitton's Chinese headquarters to complain, but they weren't interested in anything she had to say. The reporting says that stories like this tend to gain a lot of traction on Chinese social media, as people have a huge issue with the rude and dismissive attitudes of sales staff, particularly at stores that sell luxury goods. That's true in America as well, so I guess we're not so different after all. Anyway, after being ignored by corporate, Xiao Ma Ran let her rage continue to grow and fester until it became all-consuming. Or maybe she just decided to wait a little bit in the hopes that the staff wouldn't remember anymore. Or, how about just don't buy, like, weirdly ugly at Louis Vuitton? Just maybe just shop somewhere else where you can get your weirdly ugly allegedly. Look, personal opinion. I don't like Louis Vuitton. I think it looks tacky. I know it's expensive, but it just looks tacky. I'm sure everyone disagrees with me, but it's just my opinion.
I like it. It's fun. It makes my card.
Either way, 2 months later, she returned to Louis Vuitton's store with her personal assistant and one of her friends and a large nondescript bag. She and her friend tried on some clothes and told the staff that they wanted to purchase them. Xiao Ma Ran then opened up a bag and handed it to the staff. Inside was 600,000 won in cash, that's $84,000, which the staff had to count by hand. It took 2 hours for them to finish counting the money, and when they were done, the woman shoved all the money back in the bag, said she'd changed her mind, and walked out of the store. Gang. I thought she was going to buy it, and then I'd be like, that's the game. They got you. But no, she didn't. That's kind of gangster. On the one hand, that is amazing, and the woman is a fucking legend. But on the other hand, that is such a petty rich person to do that it blows my mind. Who the fuck has $84,000 in cash and 2 hours of their own time to waste just to inconvenience somebody for being rude? Someone who just works. I mean, they just work in a fucking store. I'll tell you who it is. It's fucking Nepo babies. No one else with that kind of money has the time to fuck around with this shit. No one does. No one. You just be like, no, I should just go work. Or I should just not do this. I'll just forget about it. I won't shop at Louis Vuitton anymore. No problem. It's Nepo babies. Just throw a brick through that fucking window like a normal person and move on with your life. And that's the end of today's episode. Thank you for being here.